I regret that people think that I was criticizing people that support Trump. That was never the intention.
Oh, would you look at this?
Yeah, well...
Would you look at that?
But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US.
Oh my gosh, just look at it.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright.
Just look at it.
We're all so famous, so talented, so powerful. I mean, you could really do anything. I mean, except tell the country who to vote for, but it's okay.
Would you look at that?
Nerdrotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million awakening wonders and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. The industrial legacy media complex is in an existential crisis, and while we're all enjoying it, it has led some people to believe that we are at the end of the identity politics era. I wouldn't go that far, but it's undeniable we're in the midst of a cultural shift. Out of concern for your safety, I suggest you brace yourself against any possible whiplash you may get by witnessing the people who were demonizing you just a couple of short months ago swiftly changing their positions now that it's safe. Oh, how the turns have tabled, and here's just some of the latest examples. Like comedian Jim Gaffigan, who slightly regrets Trump supporters thought he was attacking them. They will never forgive me. I really have no idea why the Trump supporters would feel that way. Maybe because you were attacking them? But hey, expressing some sort of regret is a lot more than most of your industry.
We are deeply sorry.
Then there was the viral Whitney Cummings comments on CNN during New Year's Eve.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's, oh God. Andy just gave me a very scary look.
And hey, I give Whitney Cummings credit for being the corporate pre-approved comedian reading off a teleprompter to roast CNN on their own network.
I can't believe you guys are still letting me go. This is amazing. I love CNN.
Sure, you could bring up that Whitney Cummings was requiring the jab at her shows a couple of years ago, and you could be asking where in the hell was this in, say, like 2021. But you know what we say around here? Progress, not perfection. Speaking of pre-approved corporate female comedians in their 40s, that sounded a little mean, but I think she can take it. There's Nikki Glaser, who lightly roasted Hollywood on the Golden Globes.
This feels like I finally made it. You know, I'm in a room full of producers at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and this time all of my clothes are on. So yeah, you're all so famous, so talented, so powerful. I mean, you could really do anything. I mean, except tell the country who to vote for, but it's okay. And Challengers, girl, oh my God, it was so good. I mean, that movie was more sexually charged than Diddy's credit card. I mean, seriously. Oh, no, I know, I'm sorry. I'm upset too. The after party's not gonna be as good this year, but we have to move on. I know it, Stanley Tucci Freak Off just doesn't have the same ring to it, but.
I mean, she's no Ricky Gervais, but she did all right. Who said women aren't funny? And the Access media has certainly noticed this cultural shift when Variety reported on the aforementioned Golden Globes. 2025 Golden Globes avoided Trump in politics, and then for some reason changed their headline to the 2025 Golden Globes were high on drama, but low on politics, which reinforces the Hollywood Reporter article who asks, why is Hollywood suddenly silent about Trump? Good question. There's an answer that we'll get to later. Outside of The Apprentice, it's been an eerie quiet, or maybe it's been a comfortable silence. Additionally, on the dinosaur legacy media side, and I've mentioned this in previous videos, the LA Times has decided they want to be balanced now. Same with Jeff Bezos' Washington Post. Speaking of Dr. Evil, he's donating $1 million along with Tim Cook of Apple to the Trump inauguration. Then there's Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, who's been on somewhat of a redemption arc. Unfortunately, came from her getting assaulted, but it seems a lot more authentic than her co-host Cenk Uygur, who was welcomed with applause at Turning Point USA.
We're sorry.
Easy now, guys. I trust that one about as much as I trust the turnaround of Chris Cuomo. Still, it happened. And the biggest shocker of all, which was immediately kicked out of the news cycle once Los Angeles caught on fire, was Mark Mother Zuckerberg flipping and admitting that his fact checkers were biased.
No shit. No shit. No shit. I don't have a clue what you're talking about, Phil. Not a clue.
I want to talk about something important today, because it's time to get back to our roots around free expression on Facebook and Instagram. I started building social media to give people a voice.
Right.
But a lot has happened over the last several years. There's been widespread debate about potential harms from online content. Governments and legacy media have pushed to censor more and more. A lot of this is clearly political.
Part of my job here on YouTube is to state the obvious, so let's go ahead and do that. You know who else was pushing for censorship along with the government and the legacy media? Mark Zuckerberg.
So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship.
Hey everyone, it's not Mark Zuckerberg's fault. It's the complex systems' fault that were paid for and implemented by Mark Zuckerberg.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech.
I wonder what brought you to this conclusion. Did you have an epiphany? Do androids dream of electrical sheep?
It is going to bother you because you're human, and I was human. I am human, still.
Or was it something else like total self-preservation?
Yup!
But I appreciate Mark Zuckerberg 5.0 and his new software updates honesty by stating that Facebook wasn't prioritizing free speech.
And focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
What did you say?
Holy shit, he did it again!
We're going to get rid of fact checkers and replace them with community notes, similar to X, starting in the US. After Trump first got elected in 2016, the legacy media wrote non-stop about how misinformation was a threat to democracy. We tried in good faith to address those concerns without becoming the arbiters of truth.
Bullshit!
But the fact checkers have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US.
I mean, huge if true, but that's the question. Is it? He even goes so far as to say he's going to move his trust and safety team from California to Texas.
We're going to move our trust and safety and content moderation teams out of California, and our US-based content review is going to be based in Texas.
Oh, shit!
Now, the Zucker went on Joe Rogan recently to elaborate on what happened with the fact checkers, and you can be the judge on whether or not he did himself any favors on this particular topic.
So we tried to put in place a system that would deal with it. It was really limited. We're like, all right, we're just gonna have the system where there's these third-party fact checkers and they can check the worst of the worst stuff. We put in place the system and it just sort of veered from there. I think to some degree, it's because some of the people whose job is to do fact checking, a lot of their industry is focused on political fact checking. I don't know, it's something out of 1984, one of these books where it's just like, it really is a slippery slope.
Again, this isn't Mark Zuckerberg's fault. Things just got a little out of hand. The fact checkers that Facebook hired, trained, and paid for went off the reservation for the last 8 years, and apparently it just became a problem in the last couple of months.
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at this as like a purely political thing. It's because they kind of look at the timing and they're like, hey, well, you're doing this right after the election. It's like, okay, I try not to change our content rules right in the middle of an election either, right? It's like, there's not a great time to do this. It's right. The good thing about doing it after the election is you get to take this kind of cultural pulse as okay, where are people right now and how are people thinking about it? We try to have policies that reflect mainstream discourse.
And there you have it. So what do all of the examples I just presented to you have in common? And yes, I can hear you out there, and you're right. None of this would have happened if Kamala was elected. Now, I don't want to rain on anyone's redemption parade, including Mark Zuckerberg's efforts to become a real human. Sure, he might have stolen the idea for Facebook from a couple of guys. He definitely screwed over his best friend for it. 8 years ago, he implemented the draconian misinformation policies that had a lot of accounts deleted off of Facebook to this very day that affected the 2020 election that he donated $350 million to make sure it was the smoothest ever run.
We've learned a lot since 2016, where obviously we were behind where we needed to be on defenses. I think we at this point have priced some of the most advanced systems of any company or government in the world for preventing the kind of tactics that Russia and now other countries as well have tried, kind of copying what Russia did in 2016.
Now, we want to win hearts and minds. We want people to come back to the light and embrace common sense, no matter how they get here.
But here's the rub. How do we sort out the liars?
The truth is, you can't for now with the current systems that are, fortunately for everyone, dying because the universe unfolds as it should. And sure, there's going to be a lot of holdouts, including but not limited to the guy who likes to hang out with communist dictators, Sean Penn, who compared MAGA to Al-Qaeda. Kathy Griffiths saying that she'll be put into an internment camp.
Bill been a few 7 years since my Trump decapitated head photo scandal, where I was on the no-fly list and the Interpol list, and now he's going to be president again, and I'm on the enemies list. So come see me before I'm in one of those internment camps.
I think the closest thing to feeling like you're in an internment camp would be to go to one of her shows. And John Cryer.
I think it's inflation. I think Americans hate inflation.
That's certainly what
they hate
part of it.
inflation, they hate riots, and they hate black women.
They don't
and they hate trans people.
Oh, God, John, we're not
Dude,
gonna...
they just spent hundreds of millions
They
of dollars
don't hate
demonizing
black...
trans people. And that's disgusting.
Yeah,
That
we
is-
shouldn't talk politics.
Okay.
But the good news is people like this have lost their power. Just like the previously mentioned careers, every single facet of the corporate legacy media apparatus is dying. Don't believe me? From The Guardian, traditional TV is dying. Can networks pivot and survive? From NPR, local news is dying. What's killing it? From The Washington Post, cable is dying. Streaming is the new cable. It's all getting worse. It certainly is. Stream fatigue? Americans spent 23% less on streaming services in 2024, study finds, probably because they reinvented another dying platform, cable. Did it seem like Hollywood had a rebound year at the box office? Not domestically. It was 3% down from last year, the year of the flopbuster, and 23.5% off of their last good year, 2019. Hell, publishing's affected, comic books are affected, even the gaming industry is affected. Apparently, major developers are afraid of people like Asmongold and the Critical Drinker, and they should. Every industry or government should have a healthy fear of the people they rely on, the overtaxed citizen who also happens to be the paying customer. Since this cultural paradigm shift didn't happen overnight, I would argue you should have listened to them instead of hating them and then being in fear of them, but you made your bed. So why is Hollywood suddenly silent about Trump? Why are disingenuous actors of all forms of media all of a sudden being quiet or changing their mind? It's simple. They lost. Whether it's disingenuous or not doesn't really matter, because words are wind, and we're going to have to see how all of the previously mentioned act and behave over the next few years, and I predict they're going to have a really hard time with the currency of the future, authenticity. The culture war is far from over. As a matter of fact, it's just begun. We won a battle to possibly get a level playing field someday. DEI and social engineering are not going to go away. They're going to lick their wounds and rename themselves and come back in some other form. But when they do, they might have to deal with something they thought they got rid of: common sense and meritocracy. Remember the mantra of the media industrial complex when it came to inclusivity: we need to hear new voices. Well, they are. You are the media now. It's the end of the legacy media as we know it, and I feel fine.
You were just lying to us about this, that, and the other thing, and now I'm supposed to believe you're one of the good guys. You're one of the straight shooters now.
Yeah.
Nerdrotic.com.
If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.